ॐ नमामि नारायणपादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायणपूजनं सदा वदामि नारायणनामनिर्मलं स्मरामि नारायणतत्त्वमव्ययम्. We have come a long way in our Gita studies in these online classes once a week. We are at the beginning of the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. And as all of you recollect, last week we went into the issue of Bhakti versus Jnana, where in the present context we especially are considering Bhakti in reference to devotion to God with attributes, saguna. In addition, it could be sakara also. And we are considering jnana in the present context as adoration and contemplation on nirguna and necessarily nirakara. Therefore, the essential question is between with attributes saguna, which we may call bhakti, and without attributes nirguna, which we would call jnana. And Sri Krishna, to begin with, praised bhakti yoga. Te me yukta tamaha mata, he said. They are better off. They are best connected. And I have already remarked that this comment, this praise of bhakti yogis is especially taking into account how in this Kali Yuga, though Gita, I agree, was taught in Dwapara Yuga, but it was towards the end of Dwapara Yuga, and what he says is all the more relevant to our Kali Yuga. So it was said in the context of how in Kali Yuga most people, I would use my favorite expression, in the overwhelming majority of cases, people are so extrovert. People are so attached to their body. They are so identified with their body. And therefore, Sri Krishna said, those who worship me with attributes, saguna, and optionally with form also, sakara, are better connected. It seems I rather did not go into the details of the Shankara Bhāshya on the second mantra, and let me see. I'll quickly, there's not much to say there, but talking about Saguna Upasakas, in the second verse, he said, Te me yukta tamaha mataha. And over there, Bhashyakara Sri Shankaracharya says, Mai Vishwarupe Parameshware Aveshya Samadhaya. The specific context is the form that Sri Krishna showed just a while ago in the 11th chapter, but we would say that what is said here applies to any form. Devi, Ganesha, Shiva, Subramanya, and so on. So Vishwarupe is going more specifically to the context in which Arjuna received this advice. Otherwise, you may say, Mai Sarupe. look at me in a certain form, playing a certain role, having certain desirable divine qualities. Mai sarupe sagune parameshware aveshya samadhaya manaha samadhaya, concentrating our mind. We must really develop that skill. So many people say, my mind wanders. We have addressed this issue. If your mind wanders, what you need is some satsang of people whose mind doesn't wander, or whose mind doesn't wander so much as yours. So in their company, you will also get inspired. What you need many times is a little push, a little inspiration. It's like when you are learning bicycle riding. Initially, one who is teaching you has to hold the bicycle from behind. I remember when I was learning, one Ronald Carvalho, a Catholic friend of mine in Kundapur, taught me riding bicycle. And he would, of course, after a little initial training, he would hold the backside of the bicycle as I am riding. And I'm therefore confident he is holding, so I am safe. But on the last day, when I quite a bit mastered it, I thought that he was holding, and suddenly I looked back, he was not holding, he was half a mile away. On one hand, I was delighted that I was riding the bicycle on my own. On the other, Ronnie is not behind me. I got scared, and that's when I fell and got hurt also. There's a mark on my leg even now. There was a wound, and some blood also came out. So, coming to the relevant part, somebody is holding up to some point. Then he or she lets you go on your own, and you will do a good job. So, if your mind wanders, be in company of some elevated soul, if not directly, through some audio, through some video, through some book. Connect yourself with Ramakrishna, Vivekananda. Then you will see your mind wanders less. Because here Krishna says, Samadhaya, Samadhanam Kritva. Mam Sarva Yogeshwaranam Adhishwaram. He is the master of all masters. Sarvajnam Vimukta Ragadi Klesha Timira Drishtim. When our sight is affected, when we don't have clear vision, there are raga and other kleshas, causes of sorrow, such as raga means attachment. Whereas Sri Krishna or that God principle is completely free from attachments. Nitya yuktaha, constantly attached, constantly enjoined, constantly connected. Bhashyakara himself feels he should not repeat again and again things. Ukta shlokartha nyayena, he says, going by the logic, the reasoning that was employed while giving the meaning of shlokas in the previous chapter. So, in the previous chapter or in the previous chapters, on many occasions, this concentration has been talked about. Satata Yukta, I'll tell you, if you choose to go for Bhakti Marga, this particular verse 2 of chapter 12, is of utmost value. It says in no uncertain terms, be satata yukta and be mana aveshita manamsaha. Be those whose mind is fully fixed. Reduce your worldly engagements. Reduce talking about unnecessary things. Like a miserly businessman or a miserly person who saves every penny, every rupee, you and I should save every bit of time for connecting with God more and more. Shraddhaya paraya upasate. Paraya upasate is explained by Sri Krishna or Sri Shankaracharya. Shraddhaya prakrishtaya upetaha. Paraya is in fact given a synonym. Prakrishtaya, intense. Intense means taking great care not to let the mind run away. Right now in India, in many states, they are doing an exercise, the central government, or to be more precise, the election commission, which has its own, autonomous nature. Election commission can sometimes take decisions which even the prime minister cannot oppose. It has certain autonomous powers, and the election commission is doing special intense review of electoral lists. And recently we hear that in West Bengal, lakhs and lakhs of people who had fake Aadhaar cards, like social security cards, were exposed, and it is said a lot of them returned to Bangladesh. They had entered India illegally and somehow got Aadhaar cards also, fake ones. So intense. If this exercise was done without much care, all of them would find ways to escape that kind of inspection. So I don't mean to get into any politics, but if there is no intensity in our sadhana, then no matter how long we have been, so to say, in spiritual area, we won't reach far. Prakrishtaya shraddhaya upetaha yuktatama te yuktatamaha. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna further says, Nairantaryena, with certain continuity. Chittataya, our mind must be fixed on God. Ahoratrani ativahayanti, day and night we got to be pursuing this one goal of bringing God in our heart, inviting Him into our heart. After this, we saw the shloka for which Shankaracharya gave the connection. The shloka 3 talks about 3 and 4 together, Akshara Upasakas. Akshara is that Nirguna, Nirakara Tattva. The same truth. Don't think there are two gods. There is just one God. And that God can be looked at as not associated with any qualities, any form, and so on. It is Sat Chit Ananda. Don't say, oh, Sat and Chit, are they not gunas? They are not. Sat and Chit are not gunas. There is a lot of technicality involved in this. But to use the right terminology, Sat and Chit, for that matter, Ananda or Ananta also, Sachidananda, are lakshanas. Shankaracharya explains it at many places. If some of you are interested, go to how he writes a commentary on Satyam Dhanam Anantam Brahma in Taittiriya Upanishad Brahmananda Valli, where he shows Satya and Jnana and then Ananta also, but especially on Satya and Jnana, he throws precious light. He says it is not a description. It is not a statement that says Brahman is this or Brahman is that. If you dig deeper, both Satya and Jnana indicate what Brahman is not. That is how, on the higher planes of greater precision, we have the famous instruction by Yajnavalkya to Janaka or Yajnavalkya to Maitreyi. To both he gives this. The famous line known to all of you is Neti Neti. Negate, negate, negate. Neti Neti. Negate. You don't describe Brahma, it cannot be described. Therefore, if you think Sat Chit are descriptions, really they are not. If you think Sat Chit are gunas, they are not. Sat Chit only dismiss all conceivable gunas. Kim itare yuktatamaha na bhavanti? Do people who are admiring the supreme truth without attributes not reach their goal? Are they not well connected? Sri Krishna answers in two shlokas. We read those two shlokas. Ye tvaksharamanirdesyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gamachintyancha kutastamachalam dhruvam sanniyamyendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayah te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhutahite rataah. Shranu, listen Arjuna to what I have got to say about Nirguna Upasakas. For some reason which I too don't know what exactly it is, Shankaracharya very much prefers to use the expression Akshara Upasakas. Probably the pointers, they are not descriptions, they are pointers which dismiss what Brahman is not. Probably the pointers here resemble so much with, they resemble the mantra in Mundakopanishad. Yattadadrashya-magrahya-magotra-mavarna-machakshu-shrotram tad-apani-padam nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam. There is a mantra where Rishi Angirasa says to student Shaunaka that the ultimate truth cannot be described, cannot be held by karmendriyas, cannot be perceived by jnanendriyas. You don't think of it having legs or hands and so on. It is extremely subtle. And in the Mundaka Upanishad, the word used to indicate Supreme Brahman is Akshara. Paravidya is called that wisdom where Akshara is intuitively known. Atapara yaya tadakshara madigamyate is the punchline in Mundaka. So seeing the close resemblance, looks like Shankaracharya calls it Akshara Upasaka. And of course, one more obvious reason is in these two mantra or shlokas pointing out that Nirguna Nirakara Tattva, the first word Sri Krishna Paramatma himself uses is Akshara. Yetu Aksharam Anirdesham Avyaktam Paryupasate. He doesn't use the word Nirgunam or Nirakaram, but Aksharam. So Krishna uses Aksharam first, and Mundakopanishad highlights the word Akshara, which literally means that which never decays, that which never reduces even by an iota. Yetu Aksharam Anirdeshyam Avyaktam. And the second mantra of this pair of mantras very carefully and very importantly says, those who have an excellent control over the restless sense organs alone can do this. They alone can walk the path of Jnana Yoga. Today you get so many intellectuals who can give lectures on Vedanta, write books on Vedanta. You get, as they say, dime a dozen, and or dozen a dime or something like that. So get so many of them, but their personal life may not be all that in sync with what is described here. Indriya Sanyama is mentioned everywhere in the scriptures, but everybody takes it for granted. They make their own theories and they see that they live a comfortable life. The scriptures or spirituality doesn't ask us to live uncomfortably, but there is a fine line between what is really required and what is desired by a certain unsteady mind. There is no specific list of what you may take and what you may not take, but everybody should ask oneself in one's own heart. In one's own inner voice, one sees certain things I really don't need, but merely by old habit, merely by comparing myself with somebody. Oh, she is having some certain drink, and let me also have one. He is wearing some special dress, let me have. They bought a new car, let me also buy one. Then there is some aviveka. Therefore, one should know because the requirements even in food and drink are different from person to person. One must never imitate either the so-called worldly people or the so-called tapasvis. Suddenly don't try to live like Ramana or Ramakrishna or some other saint externally. Find out by being very honest with yourself where, whether you like it or not, something is necessary for you. Otherwise, your mind cannot concentrate. So, in quantity and quality, you must decide what is a lifestyle where you are not getting enslaved by pleasures. Indriya gramam sanniyamya sarvatra samabuddhaya. They also reach me. Te prapnuvanti mam eva. If you take eva with mam, they reach me only. They reach me only. They also reach me. Many meanings are possible. Sometimes, as you know, in all languages, the word that you stress takes the meaning of the sentence in a different direction. Long back when I was trying to improve my English, a teacher had told me, will you please take me to a movie this Saturday? There is a sentence. You can highlight different parts of that sentence. Will you take me to a movie this Saturday? Emphasize you. Will you take me to a movie this Saturday? Why not Sunday? Will you take me to a movie? Why not a restaurant? So, whether you emphasize movie or Saturday or you or take, I guess, of course, we are illustrating with an additional Indian accent also. Most of the people participating here are Indians, and therefore I need not hesitate. So, te prapnuvanti mam eva. They reach me only. Don't think that they will go to some other loka. No. Therefore, akshara upasana, nirguna nirakara upasana is equally praised. And what is more, on one hand, these Jnanamargis are necessarily endowed with excellent self control in the context of pleasures, and on the other, for heaven's sake, don't imagine, these are all intellectuals who talk high stuff and they don't care for others, so, well being. Sri Krishna has said explicitly here, Sarva Bhuta Hite Ratha. They are actually interested in the well being of all living beings. Therefore, I have said it 100 times and I don't mind repeating. True spirituality necessarily walks hand in hand with excellent moral values, ethical values. Bhagavan Bhashyakara says, Akshara here is to be taken as anirdeshya. Though literally Akshara means naksharati. Oh, sorry, Akshara manirdeshyam. Two words at a time he takes to begin his Bhashya. Etu Akshara manirdeshyam. And so, without explaining Akshara or Anirdyasya here, in the Bhashya he straight away goes to the third word, Akshara Manirdeshyam. The third word is Avyaktam. Please see in the Bhashya he explains the word Avyaktam. Akshara is imperishable. Anirdeshya is what cannot be described. Coming to Avyakta, Bhashya gives explanation. Shabda Gocharam would be Vyakta. Ashabda Gocharam is Avyakta. Na Nirdeshtum Shakya. Then goes back. Therefore, it is Anirdeshya. And Avyaktam na kenapi pramanena vyajyate. By none of the means of knowledge. Shabda, what you call that? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi. These five are useful in all other subjects in the world, but in self-knowledge, these are useful even in Karma Kanda of Vedas. But in the Jnana Kanda, where the ultimate truth is being revealed, in some sense, the sixth pramana, Shabda alone works. But the sixth pramana also works in a rather unique way. It does not describe, but it helps you let go of something false that you are holding on to. Therefore, kenapi pramanena vyajyate. By no means of knowledge is this described or expressed, but Shabda Pramana, Shruti Pramana, the words of a competent teacher can deal a hammer blow to your false notion. I am this body. I lost. I made a fool of myself. You regret on one fine morning. The words of the Vedanta help you let go of that thought. Maharshi Ramana therefore says, ask who lost? Who made a fool of herself? Who is regretting? I. Is this I really you? Did you really lose? Then that it is called asad graha, holding on to something false. Graha means holding. Asat means false. That asad graha leaves. Then you have an aha moment. Paryupasate, parisamattat upasate, in all possible ways. And this I guess we saw last time also. Upasanam nama yata shastram upasyasya arthasya vishayikaranena samipyam upagamya tailadharavat samana pratyaya pravahena dirghakalam yad asanam. While giving a definition, scholars take great care to not move away from the words which form that compound word. Upasana has two parts, upa and asana. Asana doesn't mean physically sitting, but figuratively, you are with the truth. Be with the truth. Don't say, I am a great Vedanta student, but all the time you are into other subjects. You are taking great interest in sense objects and sometimes intellectually very impressive subjects. You want to understand the Constitution of America and want to know differences that Constitution has with the Indian Constitution. You want to know, is a presidential system better or a prime minister being the main person better? People will appreciate you. They'll call you very knowledgeable, but that won't help you go deeper into Vedanta. Keep it in its place. Vedanta never says don't do this or don't do that. A place for everything, but everything in its place. If you want to go deep into Vedanta, if you want to become an Atmanishta, all these other interests, which many times may be connected to some role you are playing in the society, in your organization, and so on, have to be in their right place. Do not let go of the higher for the sake of the lower. That's called compromise. Let go, if need be, lower in favor of the higher. That would be adhering to the chosen path. So, asanam means being with the pursuit which you have so carefully picked up or chosen. Upa means near. That near is explained by Shankaracharya in a wonderful way. First of all, be near truth, yatha shastram. So this mantra, this description has followed Akshara Upasana. Therefore, last time I think I gave Yatha Shastram could be, Shastra says think of Shiva in this way, Vishnu in this way. Shalagrama is a true, pratika, a true symbol for Mahavishnu. You don't have to have Mahavishnu's, you know, human-looking form with hands, legs, and so on. Shastra permits worship of Mahavishnu in the stone called Shalagrama. But that would all fall in the Saguna Sakara. Here in Nirguna Nirakara, what does Shastra say? Shastra says, contemplate on those number of mantras you find in Upanishads, or they are mentioned in Prakarana Granthas, doesn't matter, they are just echoes of the original, where the Akshara is pointed out. Doesn't have to be Mundaka only. I'll give you an example. You take Kenopanishad. Yan manasa na manute, yenahur manomatam, tadeva brahmatvam vidhi, nedam yadidam upasate. A very powerful mantra. That which the mind can never grasp. That by the power of which mind is able to do whatever it is doing. And the string of mantras in Kenopanishad, with so much of poetic beauty too, says, that which eyes cannot see, but by the power of which eyes are able to see. And so with nose, so with speech, yadvacha anabhyudyate, yadvacha anabhyuditam, yena vagabhyudyate. Speech cannot describe Brahman, but thanks to Brahman, speech is able to describe millions of things. Contemplate upon it. So there is no form here, no name here. A certain pointer which makes you contemplate for hours and hours, just as a Saguna Sakara Upasaka may think of Rama or Krishna, Shiva or Devi, hours and hours, endlessly. Likewise, the Akshara Upasaka, using pointers to that Brahman, contemplate on Neti Neti of Brahadaranyaka. Contemplate on Sanat Kumara's pointer to what he calls there the it is in the seventh chapter, Bhuma, Yo vai Bhuma Tat Sukham. And then he gives pointers. Bhuma is where one doesn't see anything other than oneself. One doesn't hear anything other than oneself. Yatra na anyat pashyati, yatra na anyat chintayati, yatra na anyat jigrati, yatra na anyat shranoti, tad bhuma. When bhuma alone can give you lasting, infinite happiness. All these are plenty of material. For Saguna Sakar also there is plenty of material. And Nirguna Nirakar. You may say, but for Saguna Sakar there are stotras also, bhajans also. There are stotras and bhajans for Nirguna Nirakara also. No shortage of material. For stotra, I may give an example. That's very famous, very popular, what is called Nirvana Shatkam. Naham, naham, manobuddhyahankara chittani naham. Nacha shrotra jihve, nacha grana netre, naham. I am not. I am not any of these. Contemplate upon it. It is possible. Once more, I would say, for hours and hours you may contemplate. For dismissal of contrary thoughts also is a valid exercise. When we think, we can think describing something, or we can think letting go of the old habitual description. Let go of it, let go of it. And then you remain as your true self. To arrive at Atmanishta is the objective. Therefore, Yada Shastram, then Arthasya Vishayikaranena. In a sense, you make Brahma the Vishaya, but as you contemplate, the Vishaya becomes a Vishaya. Upa means Samipyam, Upagamya. And let this contemplation be unobstructed, uninterrupted. Therefore, the illustration of oil falling from a vessel or a spoon falling down into another vessel, maybe, or into fire. The iladharavat. When we pour water, there is break here and there. When you pour oil, it is so steady. In fact, someone who looks at it wonders whether it is flowing or it has got solidified and staying just like that. It is flowing. Samana pratyaya pravaha. It is the flow of the same kind of thought. Dirghakalam yadasanam. So this is an inspiring definition of upasana applicable to both Saguna Sakhara and Nirguna Nirakara upasakas. And now Sri Krishna had said something about upasya using the word sarvatragam. And Sri Shankaracharya Bhagavan Bhashyakara says aksharasya visheshanam aha upasyasya. Sri Krishna picks up the adjectives. Once more, once it is akshara, it is adjective as though. Adjective describes the noun. You say, let's say you begin saying there's a tree, then you say there's a tall tree. The word tall is adjective, as you know, and it describes the tree in some aspect. So here we say adjectives are given sarvatragam achintyam. They are adjectives as though. Why as though? When you dig into them, description becomes non-description. There are some people who criticize gurus. We say the guru is a concept, is an institution, is a role. All that is true. But when your mind becomes purer and purer, the guru becomes non-guru. There is no guru, no shishya. You must have heard of that humorous scenario where Shukamuni goes to King Janaka for Brahma Vidya. And King Janaka does something very unusual, unconventional. He collects some fee, or he, in a symbolic way perhaps. I don't think Shuka carried a single penny, but whatever. The story is something like Janaka asked for Guru Dakshina in advance because once this very, very advanced student gains the insight, then there is no distinction between Guru and Shishya. Who gives to whom, he may say and walk away. So, I may not remember the story exactly, but it's something like that. Generally, Guru Dakshina is taken later, but here Guru Dakshina is collected or accepted. Maybe Shukamuni took some, if not anything else, some samit or something, little material that could be useful in Janaka's rituals or something, whatever. So, that's a humorous story. Whereas, incidentally, Shukamuni didn't need Brahma Vidya. He just needed a confirmation that whatever you know now, that is it. There is nothing more to it. That's what Janaka does. You have a certain sense of who you are and a sense of what this universe is. You are already there. 999 out of 1000 have a false understanding of what they are and what the world is, what God is. We need to work on them. But here there is no need to work on you. Shuka, blessed son of Vyasa, you have already Samyak Darshana. And for that confirmation, just confirmation, endorsement. Janaka collects fee, I believe, beforehand. But what is said in the story is expressed in Mandukya Karika by the Paramaguru of Shankara. Shankara's guru was Govindapada, Govindapada's guru Gaudapada. So Gaudapada says in Mandukya Karika, you know, Upadeshadayam vadaha nate dvaitam na vidyate. He says to his students, well, as this business is going on, this activity is going on of Upadesha, certain class is running, certain instruction period is in flow. So fitting into this frame of reference, where one is playing the role of a guru, another is playing the role of a student, that's called Upadesha. Fitting into that frame of reference, A may say to B, you are Brahman. But once that truth is understood, there is no distinction between A and B. This powerful line in Mandukya Karika, Upadeshad ayam vadaha. Vadaha here is not argument. Vadaha means vadanam, saying. All this is being said with the frame of reference kept in mind. But otherwise, nate, when you know the truth, dvaitam na vidyate. Instead of this figure saying to you, the other figure could say to this figure. People ask Ramana Maharshi, if you say all such things, then who is teaching us in the form of Ramana Maharshi? And Maharshi said without batting an eyelid, no one is teaching you. If you think Ramana Maharshi gave you an instruction, that Ramana Maharshi is a projection of your thought. You alone are. You alone are everything. Now, one cannot say that when the listener's mind is not right. Therefore, Upadeshat. Upadeshat ayam bhashanam. Upaneshat ayam pravachanam. Upadeshat ayam or idam vakyam. Nate tatve nate na asti tatra upadeshta na tatra asti na tatra avashishyate shishyah na gurur na shishyah chidananda rupah shivoham shivoham. Therefore, Visheshanam is mentioned, but there is no Visheshana really possible. However, let's see. Sarvatragam is one Visheshana, an adjective. Vyomavad Vyapi. Sarvatragam means all pervasive, like space. Achintyam. Once it is avyakta, it has to be achintya. If it's not expressed in any manner, how can one think about it? Think about it as something unthinkable. In Amrita Bindu, there is a line, Naiva Chintyam, Nacha Chintyam, Na Chintyam, Chintyam eva tat. Na eva Chintyam, it cannot be thought of. Don't say it is Achintyam, don't say it is unthinkable. Chintyam eva, it is actually to be thought of, and it is Chintyam eva. What is that? Again, therefore, think about it. What is this? Swami Anubhavanandaji jokes, a guru said like this, and a Shishya, I believe, asked, made a request. Guruji, take 5 minutes and decide whether we should think or we should not think. You are saying in one breath, you cannot think about it, please think about it. Don't think that it cannot be thought of, nor think that it cannot be thought of, blah, 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 blah. Take 5 minutes and decide whether we should think for humor's sake. But Upanishads, Amrita Bindu Upanishad says, therefore, really speaking, it is Achintyam. Then why do you say it is Chintyam? Since you have not appreciated the significance of calling it unthinkable, you better think how it is unthinkable. That's all. Yaddi karana gocharam tad manasa api chintyam. If something is perceptible by sense organs, with the mind you think about it. But this is not perceptible. Tad viparitattvat achintyam aksharam. Then there is a word kutastam. Drishyamana gunam antardosham vastu kutam. One meaning of kuta is deceptive. So whatever we see, we initially take it for real in both gross and subtle dimensions. Gross meaning, trees or mountains, stones or fruit. Subtle meaning relationship. We regard somebody as our friend, somebody as our foe. We regard many people in different ways. What is all that? Finally, the so-called others and so-called oneself are one. Therefore, there is a kuta, there is a deception. Kuta rupam, kuta sakshyam, these are the words in Sanskrit where rupam, a form, could be false. Sakshyam, some evidence given is a false evidence. Ityadau kuta shabdaha prasiddhaha loke. Tata cha vidya adi aneka sansara bijam antar doshavat maya avyakritadi shabda vachyataya. Word maya has been used, and here kuta means maya, having dosha inside it. It is the bija, seed for ignorance and many other things. So mayam tu prakritim vidyat, mayinam tu maheshwaram, Shvetashvatara Shankara quotes. Or why go to Shvetashvara from Upanishad? In Gita itself, earlier in 7th chapter, we had seen, mama maya duratyaya. Therefore, in this maya, which is kuta, right there, there is the truth. Where you see the snake, right there is the rope. See properly. And second meaning is, one is that deceptivity, deception. Second is, kute stitam. Kuta is rashi, a heap. In a heap of appearances, there shines the truth. All you need is the eyes to see. Achalam dhruvam, last two words. Therefore, Swami Chinmayananji would say this is a shloka pregnant with many suggestions. He would use such words, pregnant with suggestions. Achalam dhruvam, each word. Never say Jnana Marga is there's nothing to think about, it's so dry. No, once you get the knack of it, once someone introduces you properly to this fascinating subject, you can have lot of contemplation, meditation. So there's a skill that you have to develop. Bhakti Marga has its charm, so be it, but let nobody look down at Jnana Marga as not right. But generally, it's a small minority who go for Jnana Marga. Even among 100 who attend a 2-year Vedanta course or 10-year Vedanta course, finally the ground reality is only 1 out of 100 is truly pursuing, for the desire and attachment to creature comforts, as Sri Ramakrishna puts it, makes most of them combine jnana with some bhakti, with some karma yoga, with this, that. And many, of course, slip so much, are so busy with some social work and some, physical constructions and so on and so forth. So this is a big topic, and we will see in the next class how Sri Krishna hastens to add that this Jnana Marga, keeping in mind the majority of people, is indeed more difficult. Bhakti Marga also is difficult. Don't think devotion is easy. But Jnana is more difficult. We'll see it next time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.